Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Wisdom. I am your host this morning, this afternoon, this evening, Robin Blank Mascari, and we get together regularly to share some wisdom from thought leaders. We are here for your personal and professional development because, as you know, I love to quote Jim Rohn, work twice as hard on yourself as you do on your business, because as entrepreneurs, you are your business. And so today we have a wonderful guest that I'm excited to share with you, because I think this is going to be valuable in many different dimensions for you, because we are professional networkers. And our guest today is someone I think we met through chocolate. Um, and she was raised in Washington, D.C., and also on a 20,000 acre ranch in Montana. So she knows the metropolitan life and she knows the ranch life. Her father was an Episcopalian minister and she was surrounded by entrepreneurs. But for more than 20 years, she consulted with hundreds of nonprofit organizations and co-led initiatives with CEOs, senior executives, board directors, trustees, philanthropists, attracted hundreds of millions of dollars, and created dramatic change in these organizations. She's an innovator. She designs, leads, implements amazing initiatives for organizations that really make a huge difference to people personally and professionally. I love that she had a project called Positive Images of Aging in Florida, and co-pioneered many innovations in philanthropy throughout the world. But today we're going to talk about networking, because a lot of people think networking is an extrovert sport and lifestyle. And we're here to prove it differently today. So I'm thrilled to introduce you to Kathy Wells. KL Wells, you want to join us? There
Hi
she
there.
is.
So
Hi.
excited to be with you.
Oh, it's great to have you. And I think we want to start out because you never had any intention of being a networker. I'd love you to share your story of where this all came from, because there's so many bits of wisdom in here for people to glean. So could you just kind of share what happened that you got into writing a book? Uh,
Yeah.
yes, on networking.
Well, I think it's kind of hilarious as you read my bio, because I'm an introvert, and I hated networking. And so, with all the successes that I had, I didn't really need, quote, the skill of landing in a new place and creating my network. Wherever I landed, it just kind of happened based on the work that I was doing. So, about 11 years ago, I met somebody online and moved to Eugene, Oregon, and that was the one person that I knew here. And so, out of necessity, I needed to figure this networking thing out. And so I thought, okay, I'm landing in this new community. I know one person, I don't have a job. I don't know what I'm going to do professionally, blah, blah, blah. So I sat down and I crafted my own little strategy that was really a reflection of the heart and soul of who I am, which is really of service to my community in the world. And I wanted to lean into the one question, which was, how could I be of service and bring my gifts and talents to this new community? And so living into that question, okay, now I need to meet people. So I sat down and wrote a strategy out. So within 90 days, I did 35 networking events and 54 one-to-one conversations. And because I had crafted it out and written it down, I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew why I was doing it. I actually had written down the core values of the people that I was looking for that would be a really good fit for me. And I had written down a series of questions when I actually sat down and had coffee with people. I actually had a typed written list of questions to ask people, because in all essence, I was really interviewing them, because I wanted to find a tribe of extraordinary people. And so that was part of my intention, because once you find extraordinary, they know more extraordinary people. And then I would begin to understand how I really truly could bring my gifts and talents to this community and be of service. And so that's really where it started. And I think the biggest thing for me as an introvert was just having a plan and knowing really why I was doing it, what the purpose behind all of this was, and that it was a reflection of who I truly am. Because previous to that, networking to me had felt very self-serving, and that wasn't inspiring enough for me. So I needed to craft it in a way that matched, the heart and soul of who I am. So that's really where it started. And out of that space, and 10 years or so later, I have 3 businesses now, and I coach somewhere in the vicinity of 50 some execs and 20 some companies, and definitely a 6-figure business, and I'm kind of living the dream.
Okay, you said so much there. I love it. I love it. I love it. But one of the things that I really want to highlight is you took a look at your core values.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked earlier about how important it is to find the people
Mm-hmm.
that are aligned with your values. And like you said, you find extraordinary people, they know other extraordinary people.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened as you were doing this? I mean, you had your plan, and that's really valuable for introverts to know
Mm-hmm.
that, it gives you comfort, doesn't it? To have
Yes.
to have a plan,
Yes.
to have the questions. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
great thing to do, not just for introverts, but for everyone. And in these networking groups, you have a few minutes to say this or that, but what you did was you had one-on-one conversations. What happened in those, and what were some of the questions that you asked those people to see if, the interview process, if they were actually a fit for your extraordinary people list?
Well, let me just say something first before I get to that, because I think as an introvert, the scariest part of networking is going to an event, because you're entering a room and you don't know anybody. And so I wasn't there to impress people or be interesting. I was there to be interested in who they were. And so there were several questions that I just had memorized when I walked into that room, and I gave myself between 5 and 7 minutes to have a conversation with somebody. If I felt there was a click, then I would say, I'm here to meet people, and this has been a wonderful conversation. I really would love to have coffee with you. Are you open to having another conversation so we can get to know each other better? And to a person, everybody said yes. Because and part of this too is you have to be genuine and show up authentically. And I was who I am. And so one of the questions I asked, these are really simple, is, are you from Eugene, or did you move here? And if you're from Eugene, what do you love about living here? And then what do you love to do in your free time? Because I wasn't asking, what do you do? I wanted to know who they were. And out of those answers, then I would just kind of naturally ask another question. And I was looking for people who love the outdoors and the arts and so on and so forth. That was a better fit for me. So knowing, I need introverts that are hearing this right now to understand. I had 3 questions. I had them memorized. I was going to go to this event. I would spend 5 to 7 minutes with somebody. Then I would ask if they were open to having coffee to move it forward. And then who did they know, based on our conversation, that I should meet in the room?
Huge, huge.
Yes. So blah, blah, blah. And I usually would give myself a max of 45 minutes at an event. And then I was done. Okay? So I had a time frame in mind, because, you go to these events and people just kind of hang out. And that's exhausting for an introvert. So, whereas extroverts gain energy as they enter a room and all the blah, 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 introverts lose energy. So I was managing my energy. So 45 minutes, peace out, I'm gone. I've got several people I'm going to have coffee with, and that was my goal, and I've got it. Then I go on. So then I sit down with people, and basically I go back through, how did you come to Eugene, or are you from here? I ask them more personal questions along those lines. As they answered those questions, then I would ask them more questions. Where's your favorite place to hike? tell me about the art scene in Eugene. I didn't know anything really. And so more about the community and who they were in the community and what was important to them in their lives. And then that would eventually lead to, kind of what they did professionally in the community. And then I asked them a bunch of questions along those lines. How did they get into that business? What other businesses did they have previously, or what other things did they love in doing previously? What was it about them that prompted them even to go to that networking event? What kind of people are they looking to associate with? What does their tribe look like? Those kinds of questions are really important to understand. And then I would do a little deeper dive in terms of what were their goals and aspirations, personally and professionally. If they could design the kind of the perfect life for themselves, what would that look like, sound like, and feel like? And I'm just a naturally inquisitive person. So that's another piece to this is you have to show up curious. Because if you're not genuinely curious, people will know.
Yeah.
They can smell, shine on a mile away. And I never gave out business cards at networking events because I got their information, but it wasn't about giving out business cards. It was about meeting people eyeball to eyeball, having a connection with somebody, and then taking it forward. So one conversation generally led to another conversation, and the next conversation, I also had a list of questions for the second interview, so to speak. And then once I knew that it was going to be kind of like a funnel of talking to a bunch of people, like 54 interviews, basically in 90 days, that I would find 1, 2, possibly 3 people that would so resonate with me that I would consider extraordinary and up to really amazing things that I would want to continue to have a conversation with. And that's what happened. And once you find that one person, if they're extraordinary, they know other extraordinary people because that's how it rocks and rolls. So it happened, I think, very quickly. It took me a little while to get my footing, so to speak, in terms of how I was going to bring my gifts and talents to the community. But I think part of this is also trusting the process.
Okay, you said so much. So
yeah,
let me break down a little bit of this because this is so exquisite, Kathy, or KL. I got to get used to calling you KL.
Yeah, sorry. You met me before.
I met you before, KL, and yeah. So here you are going into new community. You show up at these events that are not your favorite thing to do at all, but you had this intention and you're living in this question of how do I bring my gifts, talents, and wisdom to serve this community. So your intention going into this was to be of service. You came prepared with a few questions, knowing that it's not your most comfortable environment, but your intention was to connect with a few people that you shared values with. And so you took this time to, look them in the eyes. And what I'd love everyone to hear that KL did that so powerfully and so intentionally is she was connecting with them. She was developing relationships with them. She was asking them questions. She wasn't asking for anything. She wanted to learn about the community because she was new. So, your favorite places to hike, the art scene, whatever, what their lifestyle is about. But your interest and curiosity was about them. You didn't get into business. You didn't get into what do you do? What do I do? You were developing a relationship. And then you were deciding if this is a resonant connection to take it the next step.
Absolutely.
And so how did people respond when you were asking these kind of questions? What did it feel?
That's such a great question because by the end of the 90 days, I was actually coaching and training people in this community on how to strategically network. Because people are like, what are you doing? We have never seen anybody network like this before. And I was like, okay, well, I can show you. And I can coach you. And I actually had my very first training course with, I think, 25 to 30 people from this community.
I remember.
In a room within the 90 days. I was like shocked. And a lot of these people had been in this community, 15, 20, 25, some people 30 years. And they just were so settled in how they were doing their life here. And I kind of came in and kind of blew it up. And with an intentionality and a focus that I guess people hadn't seen before. So yeah, that's what happened.
Well, I remember actually I was in Eugene and I went to a networking event and I played observer. I
Mm-hmm.
watched people
Mm-hmm.
and it was so disappointing to me that people
Mm-hmm.
did not understand what networking is. And
Mm-hmm.
you took the time to really learn what is this? It's
Mm-hmm.
relationships, it's curiosity, it's caring about other people.
Right.
And and it's not about, you know, throwing up all over people about your product, your business,
Mm-mm.
whatever it is that you're doing. But that's
Mm-mm.
what I observed. And it
Mm-hmm.
actually was in Eugene. I remember it vividly. And I was so disappointed at the end of the meeting,
Mm-hmm.
going, it was so unsatisfying. So
Mm-hmm.
you started to develop these relationships
Mm-hmm.
that turned into, you know, you becoming, an inspiration and educator for other people on how to
Right.
do this. And
Mm-hmm.
then you wanted to capture what you were doing. So tell us about your book.
Well, I think in so many ways, Robin, I reinvented what people thought networking was and created a very different way that was very, well, I mean, human um, for people. And I gave them permission to build relationships that were genuine and authentic in a way that resonated with who they were. And so I think intention and permission is really, really important. And so out of the networking that I had done, I had met somebody who was a publications manager, who is a dear friend to this day. And we're working on another book right now. And so I had a window of time in between things that I was doing, which was 3 weeks long. And I was doing a major speaking event at the University of Oregon. So I called my friend up, Eva, and I said, I want to capture what I did before I forget what I did. So can we do a book? And she didn't know me well enough at that point, but to her credit, I said, can we do a book in 3 weeks? And to her credit, she said yes. And I'm sure inside she was going, what the heck did I just sign up for? But that's what happened. We sat down, we had a group of people that helped me shepherd this through. And we were up on Amazon with an ebook in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the whole book writing thing certainly has transformed even since I did, how to build a powerful network in 90 days. It's so much easier now, but having great people around you to help you navigate, do the cover art of the book and all the things, was just super helpful. And, yeah, so the book came out of my just wanting to capture what the heck I had done so that I still I had the story to be able to tell. I mean, I'm not super focused right now on, quote, training people and networking like I was back then. And so I'm so glad I did the book because this is not the normal conversation that I'm training and coaching on right now. So when you asked me to do this, I didn't have to go back and look at anything that I had done because I think partly because I had spent the time to write that book.
Okay. So you did it. You succeeded. You found your tribe. You
Mm-hmm.
found these extraordinary people. What
Mm-hmm.
I'd love you to share, KL, is why is networking so important, not just in business, but in life?
Oh my goodness. If everybody who's listening to this can just get this one thing, 95% of your success or failure, whatever you aspire to create in your life, is directly determined by who you surround yourself with. It's that 6 to 8 people that you routinely listen to, talk to, all the things. So if your aspiration is to become, a world-class kayaker, you better be hanging out with world-class kayakers. I'm a backpacker. So I wanted to learn how to backpack. I'm 65 at this point. I have backpacked every summer consistently 2 to 3 weeks for, this will be our 23rd year. So I needed to surround myself with people who were aging as backpackers, knew the nutrition, knew how to exercise well, how to stay healthy, you know, all the things, so I could continue to do the thing that I love to do most in the world. So again, 95% of your success or failure, no matter what it is you aspire to create, is directly determined by the 6 to 8 people that routinely surround you. The second thing that we talked about earlier before we got on was there was a study done, 2 or 3 decades ago about the average person and how many people they consider, quote, an intimate close friend. And at that time, the research showed about 3 people. Research done around COVID was people were down to 1 person. And so that is another reason why COVID was so catastrophic for so many people. You know, our opioid addictions catapulted, our alcoholism catapulted, sadness, depression, anxiety catapulted during this time because we had been letting this skill set go in how to build intimate, close relationships that is our community that would help us through navigating when something like this shows up. And, we all know life is super messy. Life shows up. We have all been knocked on our keisters so many times and gotten up. But our abilities to get up and thrive out of getting knocked down is directly determined by who we surround ourselves with. So vampires, you're out the door. The ones that suck the energy out of you, they don't have a place to reside in my world.
I have a friend who calls them Hoover humans.
Yeah.
But you're incredibly discerning, and that's a really powerful thing. When you're in a networking meeting and there's someone who is not a fit, how do you gracefully get out of that one? Because you can tell pretty quickly. Yeah. What do you do? Because, you're there for 45 minutes and you want to make, and I know your intention to make the best out of that time. So, what do you say to someone if you started that conversation and you really get that this is not a mutual fit and why here? What do you do?
Well, and that actually happened, a few times.
Sure. Sure.
I was still gracious and asked enough, a couple questions. I would spend about, 5 minutes with the person. And then I would say, I'm new to this community. And so one of the reasons I came to this event was to meet other people. So this has been a really great conversation and I appreciate your time and I'm going to move on to meet some other people.
Beautiful.
That's it.
Gracious, clear, direct, honest. And if more people could do that, just learn how to be, because when it doesn't feel right. And then when it does feel right.
Right.
So let's say you're at this event, you're giving yourself 45 minutes, you've got this great person. So as soon as you get to this place, you say, I'd love to spend more time and get to know you better. And then how much time do you give each person, did you say? About?
Somewhere between 5 and 7, 8 minutes.
So that's enough. So when you get together in a one-on-one meeting with someone, a lot of times we use this term power partners, people that could be of mutual support. What are those important? Let's say you've developed the relationship, you get that you love each other, you want to be there for each other. What are some of the questions you ask to be supportive of them and their business?
Well, first is to ask. I wanted to know, okay, so there's a story. I met a young man who was in the mortgage banking business. Within that first 90 days, delightful man. He is still a great friend of mine today. He has gone on to realize the dreams that he told me about the first 2-3 times that we sat down and had a conversation. And I did not know until a while later that he was actually like losing his shirt in that business. And he coached and trained with me and completely turned his business around within about 6 months and created a 6-figure business based on this strategy. And so as I got to know him, I again getting clear about what are their goals and aspirations, what's most important for them to create. Then I asked them, who's the 6 to 8 people that you currently surround yourself with? Let's sift and sort through that. So I was coaching as I was having these conversations to help them get tighter and tighter in terms of their own strategy for success. And then I would ask, okay, what is it that you would want from me to help you be more successful? And quite frankly, a lot of people don't know how to answer that question.
Wow.
So then I would help them answer that question. And as I entered the community, I became involved in a leads group, so on and so forth. Then I was paying attention to, excuse me, who I was meeting that I could help my power partners with.
Okay.
And that
how do
that
you
can,
define a power partner before you go on? So people,
well, so
know what to look for. Yeah.
Okay, so let me say a referral for me, I call them golden referrals. I never ever give a referral unless I consider them golden, which means I would trust my grandmother with them. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, assuming that they're a golden referral, I trust my grandmother with them. A power partner for me at this stage of my business, because I'm a business coach and consultant, is I have some great CPAs that I have vetted. I know them really well. They're a great core value fit, so on and so forth. There's 3 of them that are power partners for me, which means whenever I'm out and about and I'm working with my clients and they say, oh, I need a bookkeeper, and I know them well, I'm able to pick the one out of my 3 that I know is the best fit for them.
Beautiful.
Okay, so then
you're living in this place of understanding what's important for them. When you're out in the world, you're looking for these golden connections for them. That's
Yes.
your service. Okay.
Yes. Yes. So I become more powerful as a resource in this community. And quite frankly, I've not met very many people that have adopted that strategy. So I know, business attorneys, estate planning attorneys, life insurance agents, CPAs, bookkeepers, the whole kind of gamut that surrounds, business coaching and consulting, marketing people, so on and so forth. And I have vetted them all. So I know I can absolutely trust them with my clients. I'm going to look good in the process because most of the time people will ask or they'll say, I need something like this. And I go, okay, I've got somebody I can refer you to. I'm going to make the connection. And in making that connection, I let my client know more background on this person. So it's not just here's a number, give them a call. I give them more information, and then I reach out to the person I have referred them to and do the same thing. So I want them to know when they get a call from my client, they need to be Johnny on the spot. And they know more information about that person.
You've set this up magnificently, but I want to go back to something you do that a lot of people don't do very well, is you ask really, really inspiring questions, your goals and aspirations, your dream lifestyle. What, how can I be of support to you? What is your ideal client like? And so you're asking, and that is one of the most valuable tools of being curious and asking good questions. Yeah. And from that, you've got this mutual fit and you set it up from both sides. And so you let people know, you just don't pass a card or a phone number. You really do the deeper work to make that connection potentially be very effective.
Absolutely. Yeah, if fit matters.
Yes. Yes.
So I the 3 CPAs that I can think of right now, they're 3 very different people. They're not going to fit with every one of my clients. So that's why I went that deep in that vertical. It was to make sure that I had really, different people based on being able to refer. I have very different clients. I'm in a whole bunch of different industries. So yeah, it's important.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's hard to believe we're at the bottom of the half hour and you did agree to stay on for some questions, but any other final comments from you? Because we're a bunch of professional networkers that many people have never even been educated. You self-educated, but what other final bits of wisdom would you like to share for us as professional networkers?
I think The first thing is know you can do this. If you're the introvert that's listening right now, be curious about other people and ask the deeper questions. And be who you really are. Be genuine and authentic. Nobody else can be you. And if you're showing up with a servant's heart and a curious personality and all the things, and you become a resource for others, I mean, personally, I don't know how it gets any better than that.
How amazing. This is fabulous. Thank you, thank you, thank you, KL. And I know we have a few questions here. Julian's asking, did you have to say a 40-second commercial? I have more of a difficult time with getting my 40-second commercial down.
Well, because I'm in a leads group, yes. I've done so many commercials, I can't even tell you. But generally, my commercials are always about stories. I tell a story. This is where the person started with me, and this is where they are now. I've told, because I've been in a leads group now for, I don't know, 20 or 10 years. My group knows me. So now they get the kind of the updated version, maybe a year later, of how that person or that company has progressed based on the work that we've done together. So I'm a big believer in telling stories of transformation.
Which is a great thing for an introvert too.
Yes.
You're not talking about yourself, but you're sharing something of value in that very limited time. That's huge. Okay, Jennifer Starr says, very valuable information. I hear so often that introverts feel they're at a disadvantage. The plan, the values, the genuine curiosity, and the intention to find your tribe of extraordinary people. Fabulous. Loving this, says Victoria. Okay, here's a question, Casey. How soon after you got to know someone pretty well did you explain your business or what you wanted to do for a business?
It wasn't on my time frame. I think generally, I was asking a lot of questions, and they would eventually ask me, what I was up to at that point. And so it wasn't on my time frame, it was on theirs.
I love it. I love it. So you're just always open in the flow to what's going to work. And then you'll know the next step. So you just pay attention.
Yes. Okay. And so here's another piece that I learned very quickly. People hate to be sold.
Right. Correct.
So I waited for them to ask me.
Yeah. Wonderful. Gregory said this should be required listening for everyone in our Live Younger community. I agree.
Thanks,
and
Gregory.
Carolee said it makes me think in new ways, which is wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah, Mary Nelson, we really appreciate you doing this. Thank you. Loving this. Thank you so much, KL. Beautiful presentation. Very helpful. I am a listening introvert.
Great. So here's the funny thing about this is if you employ these strategies, you are actually more powerful than the extroverts.
I have chills on that one. I agree with you on that. I absolutely agree with you because people, they put themselves in boxes and we have to work with who we are. And you said it many times, we need to be authentic.
Yes.
And we need to, when you're coming from a place of service, people can feel it. If you're coming from a place of what can I get from you, people can feel that too. Even if you say the right words, people know.
It's not the words. It's not the words. It is how you show up. It's the vibe. It's the genuineness. People see it. They know it. They can sense it a mile away.
Yeah. So when you show up at a networking meeting, and let's say this is a big open, everyone's just milling around kind of thing, how do you know who to go up to? Where do you start?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, honestly, at this point, I don't have to do any networking. My business is completely referral at this point, and I'm almost maxed. So, however, going back to that question, when I would enter rooms earlier on, I would just scan the room and just follow my gut.
Okay.
And introverts, you know what I'm talking about. You're going to get a hit as to, okay, that person is intriguing because you can just feel it. And just follow your feeling, follow your gut intuition in terms of who to approach.
Okay. And I've heard some people that go to the person who's leading the networking group and say, I'm new in town and this is, what I'd love to, yeah, I'd love to meet some people like this. Can you help me, guide me to who I should be meeting? Have you ever done that?
I have, but I qualified it because I don't want to meet anybody. Okay, and this is part of helping people help you. Is if you let them know the kinds of people that you're looking for. I was looking for people who were servants' heart, and bringing their gifts and talents to this community and serving, and were positive people that were, uplifting and aspirational. And so I would give them those qualifications when I asked the question. And I would say, as you survey this room, who's somebody that fits these qualifications, that I should not be leaving today without meeting?
Beautiful, beautiful. So you show up so clear with such intention, and you've got your questions, and you're trusting your gut when you look around the room. I mean, you can tell by the way people carry themselves, how they interact with other people. There's so many different things, but you trust yourself. And then when you go up to someone, and this is a big deal for an introvert to do this, and you go up to one of those people that kind of you're drawn to go up to, how do you start?
I would just stick my hand out and say, "Hi, I'm KL Wells, and I'm brand new to this community." And this may be my first networking event, and I'm just starting to get out to meet people in this community. And then let them introduce themselves to me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's see. What's the name of your book again, please?
How to Build a Powerful Network in 90 Days.
Love it. There's no excuse. And for people that have been in for a while, and how do you choose which networking groups to go to?
So when I went to, like I said, I went to 35 networking events when I first got here. So I was doing the broad, scattered approach with the idea of meeting people and then pulling those people forward into one-to-ones. So this town is rich in terms of opportunities. So chamber events, BNI groups, other leads groups that are available in your community. Just start, making the rounds. And then when you go to one or two, then ask them, are you familiar with other networking groups or other events that are taking place that I might be interested in attending?
So being curious and asking the questions and looking in someone's eyes and saying their name. And yeah. So at this stage, do you have power partners that you're always looking out for each other? And how many of those do you have? What makes sense for people? They're just getting started and they're looking for power partners. And a power partner is someone where you're mutually supporting each other. You're really clear. I guess you should define that instead of me. Why don't you define it?
Well, when you're first starting out, I mean, you're really looking for, the first 3 to 4 power partners where you have a really great relationship with each other. And if they don't all know each other, you can be the connector to those other people that you know. So that again cements you as the resource and the connector in your community. And then as you step into the comfortableness of that, I encourage you to expand out. Like, when you ask me that question, I'm thinking I probably have 15 to 20 at this point, because I am a major resource. I am somebody who has a whole bunch of different people that I rely on and rely on me. And they're in all, like at least 3 different parts of my life. So, but that's not where it started. It started with the first one.
Okay.
And then the second one. So just focus on the first one.
Okay. All right. We have another question here. How long should you attend a networking group before you decide to join? Many are quite expensive after a while. You may not feel the same as you did when you first showed up.
Well, yes, I get that. Normally you're allowed by the bigger ones, 2 visits or something like that. So strategically, You want to go to the person who is the membership person or the person who's keeping track of the most referrals in that group. Like, who gives the most referrals in that group? And then, so that's what I did. So I went to numbers of BNI groups. I would go up and talk to the VP who was keeping track of referrals in that group, and I'd say, who are your top 3 referrers?
Great question.
So then I would introduce myself to them and meet them, because if they're the top referrers, then they're the ones who are really the influencers in that group. And if they were not a fit for me, peace out, I'm gone.
Next.
Yeah. However, there probably were still some other people in that group that I wanted to meet. So I would still do the things within the two meetings that I could. And whoever I resonated with out of that group, I would ask to coffee. So I could pull out of that group without having to join it who I wanted to potentially develop a relationship with.
You don't need to join all the groups.
Nope.
And you don't want to join all the groups. Okay, no. This is a logistics question. How do you keep track of all these people?
That's a great question. You know, at this point, because I'm so deep in how I develop these relationships, I have a list, you know, that's on my board next to me in terms of my power partners and all my clients, and that's all I need to do, because I know these people so well at this point.
Okay. So you don't have like a database system that writes down all this stuff and everything. You've
Not anymore.
Connected enough that you really know them. Okay. Well, I think we're done here. Any other final questions before we close for today? I appreciate your honesty and spunk, KL.
Thank you.
She is a spunky one, and you know, out of necessity grew this amazing resource that's a gift to all of us. And no matter whether you're an introvert, an extrovert, the importance of your network is a life skill for everybody.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Last one. In-person events, networking are not an option for me right now. Would this work for social media like LinkedIn?
That is a specialty skill set that I don't have. So what I would suggest that you do is find out, you know, Google experts in utilizing LinkedIn as a connection source. I'm always like, if I don't know it and I don't know somebody who knows it, I'm going to ask my people if they know somebody. And if they don't know somebody, I'm going to start Googling.
Go for the experts.
Yes.
It'll save a lot of time, won't it?
That's the whole thing, is we don't have to do this by trial and error. You find people who are successful, talk to them, and find out what they did.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I mean, learn, it's like, we don't need to go through, you know, it's like I tell people in our business, to listen to Darren Hardy. He has a program called Making the Shift. It's the mindset necessary to be successful in our profession. And he talks about the landmines that people fall in. And I had no training. I had no support. I didn't know what I was doing. And I fell in most all of them. You know? And so I offer this to people so that they don't have to do what I did. I did it all wrong. I had, you know, and so I want to make it easier for the next person. So learn from the experts. That will save so much time. Well, KL, what a gift you are to the planet. And I hope everyone really got the message that your network is, I think we've heard the term, your network is your net worth. And so that every single day we should be developing our network, every single day, adding people to it, and finding those extraordinary ones that know other extraordinary ones, and be willing to ask the questions, you know, that go deeper than the superficial things.
Absolutely.
What's really important to you?
Our greatest human need is connection. Be choiceful.
It is. It is. So thank you. What a gift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been super fun.
Yes, it has. What a gift. So I hope everyone got some wonderful, wonderful inspiration and resources from this great woman, KL. And thank you all for taking the time to be with us. So we will complete our session. Bye-bye.
Bye.